Hello my beautiful friends, welcome. Anna Alchemist of the Arts here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the new moon in Libra, which is also another eclipse, the second of this season, that we're going to be having on the 2nd or 3rd of October, depending on where in the world that you are. Now, this one is the first time in a very, very long time that I've felt a wave of genuine excitement about any kind of lunar transition. This entire year especially has just felt like an uphill battle in so many ways, but there has been very, very valuable lessons, insight and development that we have done which have brought us to this place. It's brought us to this moment, and it feels like whatever has transitioned for you, whatever was brought to light and made visible around the time of the last eclipse, you know, we are seeing these huge patterns rippling out across the globe, but also within our own personal lives, where there has been big changes, irrevocable changes, things that we can't go back from, things that perhaps we don't need to go back from, things that we just are finally fully ready to step away from. And it might not even be a process of just very sort of clear line, okay, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm doing this. It feels more like this awakening, this sense of rebirth and stepping into the new thing. Just gradually, it could have been a gradual shift into, oh, do you know what, actually it's this feels really good, this feels really authentic, it feels very destined, for want of a better word. And we find ourselves in the midst of new possibilities, on the precipice of starting new things or really enjoying things in a whole new way again. So there is a very pleasant and very welcome shift in the energy that's coming in. But as always, this will come with our ability to be able to recognize and be honest with ourselves about what it is that we're no longer going to entertain in its place. And I think this is where we are still being called to introspect, not to ignore the things that need our attention, that warrant our attention, and not to ignore the things that we do need to actively participate in changing. I think it's really important that we remember that we have a great deal of personal power to begin these changes. And what we have is this beautiful balance of new possibilities that come in, that allow us to maybe even just dip our toe in the water of what could be. And that is enough for us to go, oh, okay, you know what? If that's on the table, if that's a possibility, maybe my eyes have just been open to something, my heart's been open to something. I'm not going back there. I'm not doing that thing again. That is no longer, whether it's a way that we were doing things, an entire life that we were living, a circle that we were mixing in, whatever it may be. It could just be like an emotional funk that we got stuck in, or just a level of vibration that we became so completely attuned to that it got us into this kind of numb sense of normality, where we've just been spinning our wheels and going around the same loop. I'm just visualizing a record player, that's why I'm doing that. Just going around in circles, and then all of a sudden, you know, the needle skips, something shifts, something changes, and it's like, why was I stuck here doing that thing? And if that potential is on the table, and it might just be the tangible potential or even a whimsical kind of potential, if it's not tangible in the form of an opportunity, something that you actually feel like, okay, it's time to take action on this, or something that's presented to you, it could be a very whimsical kind of opportunity that allows you to fantasize a little bit about just how good life could be, or about the changes that you can make, about the shift in direction, reconnecting with perhaps a lost part of ourselves, an old dream that we had, something that lit us up and inspired us, and then going, no, do you know what? I do miss that, or I do love that. I do want to do that again. So there is this blend here of an entire range of things that might feel that we might be feeling, that we might experience, that could happen, from the brand new opportunities that make themselves available and apparent in our lives, to the new connections that we might meet that just might shift our path ever so slightly, to just seeing things within ourselves from a very different perspective. Now, there was a lot of Libra energy associated with this eclipse, of course. And of course, Libra has its own associations with, sort of being split-minded or being very balanced, being able to see both sides of the story. And, there is, I'm not an astrologer, but there is this energy behind this of, maybe once we start making some of the movement or some of the declarations, or to ourselves, saying, actually, no, I am going to do this. That's a declaration to self. When we start saying these things, all of a sudden there could be this shift of, oh, okay, there might be some kickback, some resistance, whether that's internal or external, whether you've outwardly communicated this with anyone else or not. We're going to have to be very grounded and try and look at every aspect of opinion, perhaps, before we decide to react. I do feel like this could be quite challenging for many of us if we do find that kickback, or maybe just somebody acting out of jealousy, out of spite, out of their own pain and wounding, that tries to, take us back down to that level. It's worth noting just quickly that if we've become very attuned to a certain frequency within ourselves that keeps us at a certain point, and then all of a sudden we find a way to shift beyond that, or we just shift to a different frequency, you might find that you engage in different activities, and then all of a sudden the things that you were attuned to in the past no longer gel the same. And people, whether or not they involve themselves in energy work of any kind, personal growth work, a lot of people can detect those changes, and it can then cause to a sense of conflict, kind of friction between relationships, between friendships, which can lead to that kind of, I don't want to say spiteful because that sounds really judgmental, but that kind of kickback energy. So if you find yourself in that position, it's not from a place of superiority or, oh, look what I've done. I've clearly elevated myself. I kind of really dislike that approach to it sometimes, but it can just be that you're now no longer at the same frequency as some of the things that we were, people, places, situations, activities, groups that we were engaged with previously. And it could mean that we need some time to introspect about how we engage with those groups, whatever they may be within our life, so that we can maintain who we want to be and keep that clear vision of where we're going, because that feels like the greatest gift that is going to come through right now, is that kind of vision of possibility, of potential. And we can work with that by actually sitting down, and I know this is very typical, like new moony thing to do, but seriously, sit down and get really clear on what you want those next steps to look like, or what is the end goal, if there is one for you. Perhaps there are incremental goals that you want to achieve. From experience, it's always best for us to not try and plan every single step. It's kind of like micromanaging the entire experience, when actually if we just have a few key landmarks of what it is that we want to achieve or to experience or to do, to put out into the world, to how we want to engage with others, having that as the goal, and then allowing room, allowing space for the cosmos, for the universe, for the weird cosmic intelligence, whatever you want to call it, your gods, guides, guardians, angels, ancestors, allowing them to fill in some of the spaces, allowing there to be the room for potential, the room for magic, the room for sometimes chaos that brings the most beneficial shifts and changes. I think that can be very misunderstood, that process, when we see these changes and challenges sometimes. But we've come from a very difficult cycle. We've come from many difficult, challenging, repeating cycles that we have worked very, very hard to overcome, to not escape from, but to be able to stand upon the versions of ourselves, not with disrespect, but as the version of us that has learned, that has listened, that has connected with ourselves, and then go, okay, well, if it's not that, then I'm going to pursue this direction now. Or I feel that this is the direction that I'm being called to. These are the things that I want to do. These are the things that interest me. And they can be what it is for you in your personal life. It could be something from starting a new hobby to a complete career change to moving to a different country. You know, it'll be different to everybody. But that is that wave of new potential that's coming in. And like I said, it could be a very whimsical, dreamlike kind of a thought that just drops in. It could be a dream. It could be some kind of daydream where you're just like, whoa, wouldn't that be amazing? And then, you know, we're going to start building upon that. And I feel this is the point at which we maybe feel a bit like there's been a destiny reclaimed, or parts of ourselves that have been reclaimed, that have been restored. And from that, we can then build towards the life, the future vision of the world that we're creating, and actually put that into action and start to see, you know, it's not to say this isn't going to be hard work. It's not to say that there's not going to be more challenges, but there is a very positive and beautiful wave of energy that is opening up, that is creating this expansive feeling of future potential within us right now. And I think we could work with that really powerfully and beneficially by sitting with ourselves, taking a moment, going to somewhere where we know we feel safe, grounded, nurtured, and, you know, maybe going into a meditation and visualizing. Maybe if you prefer to write it down, think about how you would like this to look. If you look at the expanse of the rest of your life, maybe that's too much for some of us to think about. Maybe the next year, maybe the next 5 years. What is it how would you like to live and experience life? How would you like to show up for the people that you love or the people around you? That is personal and can only be answered by you. And we can only make that connection with ourselves and that intention very, very clear if we give ourselves that time and space to connect and to go through that process. So it feels like a really, really good time to engage in a practice that is meaningful for us, that can help us and assist us with that, and allow for those shifts to take place. Because what we do is, with a different thought, we allow all of that potential in our minds to have different thoughts, to visualize different possibilities, and then they become slightly more possible in our minds. And I think we forget so easily that there is so much more that we are capable of than we have allowed ourselves to believe, because of the conditioning that has been put upon us for such a long time, for most of our lives. And actually this entire process, there's the reason that we do this work is not necessarily to, for me, it's not to discover who we are, but actually undo all of the conditioning and get to that core of the most authentic self. And, you know, there's a lot of childlike, beautiful energy there of the things that inspired you and made you joyfully happy as a child that we can reconnect with as well. So I think I've covered about everything I wanted to cover there. I am going to go forwards and do the runes. As ever, this can be quite noisy, so I'll try and be as quiet as I can. Let's get into it. Okay, now interestingly, Raido is the rune that has been following me the most lately. It's come forwards with readings I've done for other people, with exchanges I've had with other people, and in a few different ways. My own personal connection with the runes is I just often see them appearing in different places, through trees or whatever it is. Raido is the one that's come forwards. Now this isn't fully in the upright, a lot of people would dismiss that. I personally, if I'm doing a reading like this, have an interpretation for this. And that's somewhere between the two energies of it being in the upright, the reverse. There's a lot of evidence to say that there is no reversal of the runes, and that's fine. But for me, in the context of this, it feels like it's saying that there are still things in this process, in this moment, in this time of our lives right now. We won't ever get to live this time again. This time that we're living right now, even if it isn't entirely what we want, we will never ever have the opportunity to live it again. And there is magic, there is wisdom, there is guidance within it. There is something within it that is going to help us. There are going to be things that hold us back, and there are going to be things that give us the momentum and the drive to move forwards. This, our task right now, if you need a task, many of you would just be like, no, don't give me more tasks. I get that. Because there is a spiritual exhaustion just from the intensity of this work at this time. If you need to pause, take a pause. This doesn't have to be a vicious or difficult process, or one where we beat ourselves up or exhaust ourselves. But we have a feedback loop within us. And when we walk away from situations and feel absolutely drained, emotionally, spiritually drained, that can be a sign of something that maybe isn't the best for us. And when we go into other situations where we start feeling more energized, that can be an indication of the things that actually are better for us. Equally, when we try doing new things and we try and force something to happen, we can plow so much energy into it. And just like a cart that's stuck in the mud, just like a car that's stuck in the mud or snow or something, you can try as hard as you want. You can keep putting energy to try and get that forward movement, and it just won't happen. Whereas sometimes when you really find yourself in the slipstream of something that is bringing you energy, that helps you to elevate into your best energy, you find that the momentum is naturally there. You naturally are propelled forwards. You find the time. You were just in the right energy for that experience to happen. So there is a couple of different perspectives to this one for me in this position. And both are vital. And this is just asking us to be mindful of where we are pushing and achieving not what we had hoped for, or maybe where we've just invested a lot of energy and haven't garnered the results that we'd hoped. And where we are perhaps, we're going to free ourselves now, and where we're feeling energized, where we're feeling that sense of excitement. And it's not to say that we drop everything that we've been working on and just start something new because it's shiny object syndrome and it's new and it's exciting. But there might be new ways to do the things that we had previously invested in that bring fresh energy and fresh momentum so that we can see the growth and forwards movements. It's interesting. Again, this is very general reading. So take it at the level that feels right for you. And if it doesn't, just leave it. These two want to come together. Okay. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so we've got, I've literally just dropped that. I'm going to pause it. Okay. Hopefully that didn't take too long. So we have Manas and we have Turisas. Now, I'm really intrigued as to why all the runes are coming out this way today, but I think, you could completely overlook that, and really it doesn't need to be a feature. Even if these were upright, they would have a similar meaning to me. For me, Turisas in this position represents something that we might need to overcome. And it could actually, I'm getting these two together, wanting to come out together. There might be something that we are perceiving as an impossibility, as something that is so big, so beyond us that we just can't do it. where we might be doubting ourselves, and also doubting, for some there could be a feeling of an element of risk, personal risk that's involved. Obviously that is for us at an individual level to assess. But there is this feeling here of restriction, of holding ourselves back because of our perception of something. There are real risks in life, and sometimes there is our perception of an outcome that feels like it's going to hold us back, that it then does hold us back. Our perception of a possibility, it's not every possibility, but one in particular, then will hold us back. So there is a very strong message here to ask ourselves some very powerful questions about what it is that we want to do, and why we might be telling ourselves, this might not be for everybody either, why we're telling ourselves that we can't. Why do we doubt? Why am I telling myself this is impossible? Because there is far more that is available, that is possible to us than we could possibly ever imagine. But where our mindset is, where our train of thought is right now, we might be feeling like there is this level of impossibility. And I feel like these have come out together like this in order for that to be challenged, for us to challenge ourselves, to challenge that perception, to challenge how we can perceive the situation and the possibilities so that we can overcome that. This isn't there. Those feelings, those experiences, they can literally stop us from trying those things, from being open to moving forwards and trying those things. But the fact that those have come out like that, the fact that I dropped them on our rune, this is just saying to me, this is something that can be changed. This is something that can be shifted. If you have that feeling, if you find yourself in a thought loop within yourself where you just sort of like, I can't do that, it's never going to happen. It's not happening. Why isn't it happening now? It's just never going to happen, is it? That is the point at which we need to stop and challenge ourselves. That's the mountain to overcome. That's the resistance. And that is something that we can resolve. That is something that we can overcome. If you look at it, if you stood at the bottom of the mountain and you're looking at the very peak, it can feel like the most daunting, overwhelming task. But you don't climb a mountain in a minute. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes step after step. So there is a lesson there, especially with that rider rune as well, of taking those steps. And they're going to be incremental steps. And you might find that as you try things, as you keep moving on this path, you might try things that then you feel that just create more resistance. And then you might try things and perhaps challenge your own perspective and perception and limitations that you felt that were going to hold you back, a reason why you couldn't do something. And this, I just got really strongly, it could be down to appearance for some, or just our self-perception. There is this need now to take a look at those, because there is going to be steps that we can take to build that momentum, to climb that mountain. And then it's not going to look like a mountain anymore, because you'll reach the peak of it and then you go and you'll look down and you go, wow. But it's often we don't see the progress in the day-to-day. It's not until we've got to some sort of moment, some sort of milestone moment where we look back and we go, I have really come a long way, or I can't believe I got here. I can't believe I completed this. I can't believe I achieved this. It could be a degree, it could be some sort of educational study course for some. You know, there is so much scope, so much potential, and this is really powerful energy. This is very life-changing energy. But that all begins with our ability to take a step, to think a different thought, to take a different action. And it is in increments. I'm seeing that so clearly. You know, we start somewhere. Don't doubt yourself because you feel you're at the bottom of the mountain. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that you have got to take one step and then another step, and you are going to get to where you need to go. I love that. Let's get one more. What do we have? Tivas in the upright. This is another one of my favorite runes actually, because it connects to the god Tyr, and this to me is speaking about things being balanced. Again, you know, this Libra eclipse is most definitely going to have some elements of things being put into balance, of things being balanced out. But I'm also getting here whether this is an injustice we've put on ourselves, something that we felt was unfair, because maybe because of those I don't want to say negative self-perceptions, but maybe self-perceptions, we might have held ourselves back. We might have said, oh, I can't do that thing, it doesn't happen to me, it's not fair, or why hasn't this been working, why isn't this working for me, it's not fair. It feels here like there is going to be a new wave of strength and clarity, because this connects to the god Tyr, and also this sense of justice. And sometimes that's a level of internal justice, of internal realization, of bringing things back into balance within ourselves. I'm also getting quite strongly that there is something external that could be being brought back into balance. There could be something connected to the physical body that we might be bringing back into balance within us. But again, that could very much be our energy and our connection to our physical body, to be able to be present with ourselves. This feels like whatever we're doing now, this feels like a very powerful turning point. And with this very grounded masculine energy here, it feels like this is going to be something that truly can be quite life-changing, quite pivotal for us, fortifying and finding our strength again. But I'm also getting as well that it's the ability to think clearly, the ability to see things with clarity, that internal clarity. And again, I want to emphasize, when we speak of justice, that can take many forms, but sometimes we can do ourselves wrong and don't do ourselves right because of the things that we say to ourselves, because of our inner dialogue, because of the way that we communicate with ourselves what is possible. So this feels to me like a second chance kind of energy, something being brought into balance, an opportunity being brought into balance, but also it's like a second chance within you. This feels very, very much about our internal processes, about our perception, about the way we move in the world, and sometimes maybe that's physically. But this feels like something being put right. I think those were the words I was looking for. Something being put right within us and outside of us within our lives. And of course, that internal shift, things being put right, whether that's in the way we perceive things, reconnecting with a part of ourselves that wants to do things in a certain way and saying, actually, no, I'm going to allow myself to do this. I give myself permission to do this. That is where that shift happens. That's where that balance happens. That's where this is put right. And then all of a sudden we get to move forwards. So there is some big energy and some big themes about here. It feels really good in so many ways. And I'm just going to intend for all of us that we get that clarity. We have that moment, that ability to sit with ourselves and really decide what it is that we want to do differently. What is it? We've come this far. We've been committed to this process. We've been committed to this work. What are we going to accept now? Where are we settling things? And where are we going to say, actually, no, I'm not okay with this. I'm not settling for that anymore. And then being able to push that energy and saying, okay, but if it's not that, then I'm going to open up to this, and I'm going to believe that this is possible, and I'm going to go and I'm going to try this, and I'm going to believe that this could be possible, even if you're not fully there and like this is totally possible. Well, do you know what? If it could be not possible, it could also be possible. So I'm going to leave this here. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it assisted some of you. Thank you for spending your time with me. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you. I so deeply honour the time that you spend with me. Just sending you all my love, and I wish you a very happy new moon. Take care.